you guys for tuning in for another edition of the NFL Draft Show here on the Grueling Truth, where legends speak. My name is Dan Kornhauser. I am joined by my co-host Sam Teets. Sam, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, Dan. Getting ready for some ugly Thursday night football tonight. I think it's Carolina versus Atlanta.
Can't wait. So excited.
You love these primetime games, right? I mean, they've really given us some great games this year. I just can't imagine what the schedule thinkers were thinking putting this whole thing together this year.
Yeah, it's been pretty ugly so far, but that's neither here nor there because we have something special tonight. We are officially about a month away from bowl season, which means it's mock draft Thursday. Bum, 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 bum. I'm excited. Our first mock draft of the season that we're doing on the show. We're going to do a whole first round, 32 picks. We're going to ping pong them. We're going to give each other, 30 to 45 seconds per pick, give you the time to make your pick, give you a little explanation, a little back and forth, and then we're on to the next one. I have my timer on my phone ready to go. So, let's get the show started. So let me just share my screen real quick. Hold on and turn off my phone because, we're adults here, right? Here we go. All right. Where's the button? What am I doing here? Okay, here we go. And we're going to go there, and we're going to do one of those. Now, we're going to do this mock draft. Can you see the screen all right?
Yep, all good for me.
All right, awesome. So we're doing this on mockdraftdatabase.com. They have a mock draft simulator, one of the better ones that we like on the web, and they have an up-to-date order. So with the first pick, I'm on the clock with the Houston Texans, and we're going to make this really simple, people. They need a quarterback. I mean, let's be honest. They need a little bit of everything, but the quarterback is the most important position, and here we are. First on the board, I'm going to take Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama.
Yep, you just got to go hit the orange start button first at the very bottom.
What are you doing? What is it? My first time doing this draft? Amazing. All right. So here we go. First pick, Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama. Now, there is a toss-up whether C.J. Stroud is the top quarterback, Bryce Young is the top quarterback, or maybe even Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky, is up there. Depending on who you talk to, you'll get different answers. I know me personally, I love Bryce Young. I love everything about his game. The only questions lie with his size, his build, already injured in college, which is, not always promising when you're that small. But everything else is there. He's smart. He's accurate. Any questions about the pick?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. They picked the best quarterback in the draft for a team that desperately needs quarterback help.
All right. You're on the clock. Second overall, Carolina Panthers. What's it going to be?
Speaking of a team that desperately needs quarterback help, here's the issue with Carolina. C.J. Stroud is a good prospect. I don't know if he's a fantastic prospect. He's not a guy who I would really want to go out and get a number 2 overall like I had avoid it. The Panthers, P.J. Walker, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, you have a lot of issues on your roster at the quarterback position. And if you're the general manager there who survived the Matt Rule purge, you've got to be feeling that if you don't draft a quarterback this year, you're probably the next one out the door. So if you're the Panthers, you feel pressure to take the quarterback here. And my next guy on the board is indeed C.J. Stroud. So I think Stroud's going to be the pick here for Carolina. Finally get someone who can hopefully deliver the ball consistently to DJ Moore and try to build out that offense from there.
All right, so we got back-to-back quarterbacks to start. First Young, second Stroud. Third, the Las Vegas Raiders are an interesting team because they're not doing well at all this season. There's a lot of troubles on both sides of the ball. Nobody trusts Lane Kiffin. It's really bad. It's bad all around. So one big question lies, are they going to move forward with Carr? Will they have a new head coach if they keep losing and end up picking in the top 3? And when a new coach comes in, possibly new quarterback comes in. So there's a lot of different directions they can go here. But as of now, today, November 10th, they still have their coach. They still have their quarterback. So I'm going to work with that in mind, assuming both of those guys are coming back. At this point, it's a player available. And I know they added Chandler Jones in free agency, but he's not doing anything. I think he has 1 sack so far on the season. Super disappointing. I think this would be a great position for them to take Will Anderson Jr., the edge rusher from Alabama. He may very well be the top prospect in this draft when it's all said and done. He might go number 1 overall. I mean, if the Texans are picking first, there is precedent there for them with their previous picks. Remember, they skipped over on quarterbacks to take Mario Williams way back when. So maybe they do that again and take Anderson. But since they didn't here, Anderson falls to 3, and I think is a great building block to go opposite Crosby. And now, Sam, you're on the board 4th overall with your Pittsburgh Steelers. Take it away.
Yeah, you kind of cucked me there by taking Will Anderson instead of letting him fall on me and just pairing him with TJ Watt. That's what I was hoping to happen.
Can't have
the Rares. With Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas, you have no idea if he's going to be back next year. It's such a toss-up and kind of hard to draft for that team right now. Pittsburgh, look, you desperately need cornerback help. You need help along the offensive line as well. Frankly, I don't like the tackle value at the spot. Not right now. I think you could get there with Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State. Maybe you get there with Broderick Jones later in the draft, but I don't feel it right now. And at the corner, I'm also not that high on Keely Ringo, Cam Smith. These are not the guys like Derek Stingley, Ahmad Gardner, Pat Surtain, J.C. Horn. They're not those type of players to me. Mm-hmm. So we're going to avoid tackle. We're going to avoid corner for now. Just take the best player available in Jalen Carter. Pair him up with Cameron Hayward for whatever the rest of his prime looks like, the rest of his career, and hopefully get your next guy along the defensive interior.
Jalen Carter is another one of those guys who could very well go top 3. He's that talented. His stock is very high right now and could go higher. I think he's a lock for the top 5. That's a great pick. Now Detroit. Now I'm trying to figure out here how I set this clock properly. So I'm going to set it to 45, and I'm going to set go. And Detroit is now officially on the clock. So 5th overall, I think it's almost got to be either defense or a quarterback. I don't know if I have the sand to take a Will Levis personally at this spot. I don't know how I feel about Myles Murphy being in the top 5 right now. I'm not taking an offensive lineman if I'm the line sitting here. Not taking one of the receivers. I mean, it's narrowing it down. I'm just going to do it. They gotta get out of this draft with a quarterback. They can't go forward with Jared Goff. There's a lot of really talented options, and I'm going to go with Will Levis here. Could be defense with that pick. It should be if they don't like one of these quarterbacks, but I'll take Levis. And let's pause for a hot second. Let's go back to that top 5. Young to the Texans, Stroud to the Panthers, Anderson Jr. to the Raiders, Carter to the Steelers, and Levis to the Lions. That's 3 quarterbacks in the top 5. And Philadelphia sitting pretty on the clock. Take it away.
All right, so Philadelphia, you might have some questions along your defensive line. You always build a good defensive front. So the Eagles probably want to add to it. I know Brendan Graham's kind of played a bit of a rotation role this year. Obviously, he's older, coming off a significant injury. Recently, Josh Sweat's a player they like quite a bit. Robert Quinn they only have for the rest of the year, and then he's a free agent. He brought in Hassan Reddick, who's a bit more of an edge rushing from a linebacker position. Doesn't really have the bulk to handle a full-time edge setting role, and especially against the run. Myles Murphy, on the other hand, does. Myles Murphy is a very versatile lineman in terms of his ability to maybe reduce in size. He has a lot of power. He's well built. He's got explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, and he's going to be the next defensive end for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be building a very nice rotation up front for them. Think about maybe him and older Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. Again, Cox is also a free agent, I'm pretty sure, after the year, so maybe you bring him back one more time. Josh Sweat, who's very explosive. You have Hassan Reddick. You got Milton Williams, Marlon Tui Pelotu as well on the defensive front. Jordan Davis is coming back. Derek Barnett is a free agent next year, but maybe you'll get him back for another 1-year deal. It's a really good defensive rotation in Philadelphia.
All right, so Myles Murphy is the pick?
Yep.
All right, there it is, Philadelphia. I know New Orleans is kicking himself because I believe that pick is New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
They're disgusted, but that's the risk you take. So now I'm on the clock with the Arizona Cardinals, and this is another team that may very well be firing their head coach. Now, I doubt they're moving on from Kyler Murray. They just gave him a nice big fat contract extension. So he's probably not going anywhere, but they might have a new head coach, new system, which means potentially a complete teardown depending on how things go. But if they're picking 7th overall, they're in a position to really shore up any number of needs. I think at this point, though, they might very well want to start thinking about beefing up that defense a little bit more. I'm probably going to go with Brian Barisi here. I like his versatility, and they do need more beef up front. I don't know how much longer Watt's going to be there, and let's be honest, there's really nothing good going on in Arizona. So I'm going to take Barisi. Brise?
I call him I say Brzee, but I know that they you know how we are with pronunciations. It's not fantastic, but this year I'm gonna get it right.
I'm the absolute worst.
Yeah, well, it would help if Brzee is how you say it, Brzee.
Brussy?
Yeah, like bruh and then Z.
He's my new favorite player. All right, here we go. You're Jacksonville Jaguars. You are on the clock. 8th overall.
Yeah, there's a bunch of routes we can take here with Jacksonville. I wouldn't mind going for wide receiver. I know you've traded for Calvin Ridley. We don't really know what he's going to be when he comes back. But if you do get Calvin Ridley back, and he is close to what the All-Pro he used to be, having Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, it would be a pretty good rotation at wide receiver. I still wouldn't rule out going receiver here, but you can get one of those guys later in the draft as well. Looking at this roster currently, the cornerback position, it's solid. It could improve, but it's a solid cornerback room right now. With most of the top defensive linemen off the board, I'm actually going to go on the offensive line. Cam Robinson's not played particularly great this year, even though I know you gave him a contract. You're paying him quite a lot of money. On the other side, Juwan Taylor's been better, but not great yet. I'm going to go with Olu Fashanu from Penn State here. He's a quick riser. He's very athletic. He's only 19 years old right now. This is a really young guy with a lot of building blocks. You can only imagine what he's going to be when he's 21 or 22 years old.
There it is, Olu Fashanu. And he's 28 on this board. And you're right. He is rising, and he's rising. I expect that to go a lot higher as we move forward, assuming he declares. Because is he, what, a redshirt sophomore or something like that?
Yeah, he's an underclassman. But I can tell you for Sports Illustrated, he is one of our top 10 guys.
Damn, all right. Giving us that insider info. Let's go on to the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, 9th overall. And I tell you what, I'm a little disappointed if I'm sitting there at 9th overall and one of the top tackles like that comes off the board. But Chicago's in a situation where they could really stand to upgrade receiver along the offensive line. On the defensive line, they need to get an edge rusher. They did trade Robert Quinn, so there's a lot going on there in Chicago. For me right now, it's between Addison and Skoronski here. But I feel like you can get a solid receiver later. I'm going to take on the clock. I'm going to take Peter Skoronski here. They got to keep building that offensive line if they're going to give Fields a shot. And they did trade for Claypool. They have Mooney. They can draft another receiver later. But they need to build that offensive line up front. And the Green Bay Packers are on the clock.
Yeah, the Packers have a bunch of questions along the offensive line as far as where's Elton Jenkins going to play? Is David Bakhtiari ever going to be healthy? Will Zach Tom become more of a role player in the future? Obviously, he's a rookie for you this season. So there's a lot of questions on the offensive line. I'm not particularly confident in the offensive line class. I could see if you want to go Broderick Jones here. Broderick Jones is a player who I like quite a lot. I know there's a bunch of hub around Paris Johnson Jr. as well, being first-round picks. But at number 9 overall, I'm not too optimistic right now about putting those guys at that spot. I feel much more comfortable about them right around the middle of the first round of the draft. So I am going to go wide receiver here just because you have to find someone with first-round pedigree in that wide receiver room. Looking at 3 on the board, Jackson Smith-Njigba was my favorite receiver in the offseason. Jordan Addison is probably like the highest ceiling receiver, I'll say, of the guys in the first round. A guy is just going to be good, but I don't know if he's going to be great. I'm going to go Quentin Johnson here, who is very physically toolsy, has shown enough speed to threaten teams vertically. And like I said, he's had some really big games this year, really showing out in his draft stocks. Another guy who's rising right now.
Yo, you know how I feel about Johnston. Silky Johnston. That's my boy. Now, before we go on, that's my current wide receiver 1. Before we go on, I want to remind you guys that we're brought to you by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for sportsbook and casino sites. So head on over to betting.net. net. So that's the top 10. Let's give it a little revisit before we move on. Again, we did the 1 through 5, Young, Stroud, Anderson, Carter, and Levis. 6 through 10, Eagles took Murphy, Cardinals, Brussy. Jacksonville taking Fashanu, the offensive tackle from Penn State. Bears, I took Skoronsky, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. And the Green Bay Packers give Aaron, a wide receiver, in Mr. Johnston, Silky Johnston, wide receiver from TCU, monster, 6'4" beef. And now Seattle's on the clock. 11th overall. I think this is actually another pick they got from in a trade. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's the Denver pick, I'm pretty sure.
The Denver pick. There you go. Denver's also disgusted because, yes, they got Russell Wilson, but they are butt cheeks. He is butt cheeks, and they now have the 11th pick. Well, Seattle has the 11th pick. Now, with them, one would say, hey, maybe they need a quarterback here. Personally, I don't like any of these quarterback options available, and with the way they got Geno Smith playing right now, hell, give him more time. Give him
They don't need it right now. They don't need a new QB.
You don't. And to be honest, I'm not taking Hendon Hooker in the top 15. I'm not ready to do that yet. We'll see how things go the rest of the way. Not taking an Anthony Richardson or anybody like that. So scroll all the way back up here. Beef somewhere else up. What else can you do? They don't need receivers. They don't need corners. Let's give them some more help on the defensive line. I'm going to take Tyree Wilson here, the edge rusher defensive lineman from Texas Tech. He's having a great season thus far. They need to add more beef up front on defense. They're playing well, but let's be honest, this roster is lacking talent. So I think Wilson would be a great pick there. Shore up the front seven. And the Lions, my Lions are back on the clock, 12th overall.
Yeah, I love that pick for Seattle, by the way. I'd already pulled up Tyree Wilson. If you weren't going to take him, I was going to send him to Detroit right away. So that's a great pick for them.
Top up my own team.
Yeah. Looking up Detroit right now, you have to feel pretty confident that you've added a lot of youth that are on the roster. I'm not really going to touch the offensive line currently. I think you have a lot of building blocks up there. The wide receiver room could improve, but you're waiting on Jameson Williams to come back, and then it might be all right with him and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the room. You already took a quarterback. Man, you're not leaving me with a ton of great options here. I'm not going to lie. What do you want the most here? Do you want a corner back here?
I would take another corner, yes. I would.
All right, well, looking at the cornerbacks available right now, I feel most comfortable with Joey Porter Jr. and Cam Smith. I know some people have Keely Ringo ranked CB1. I heard Keely Ringo's playing close to 215, 220 right now. He's probably going to need to lose some weight. So I'm going to go ahead and just take the physical freak that is Joey Porter Jr.
There it is. Another Penn State player coming off the board. And the Houston Texans are on the board with their second first-round pick, 1st and 13th. Not a bad way to beef up a rebuild. And like I said earlier, Houston, 3 first-round picks. They're going to need every single one of them. Then they need everything. It's just that simple. Bryce Young was a great start, but they're not done there. They could still add to the offensive line. They can add to the secondary. They can go any which way here, but I think it's if you're going to have a young quarterback, you're going to want to give him a young one to build with. They already have Cooks, assuming they don't trade him in the offseason. I know they still have Nico Collins. I think this would be a great spot for a guy like Jordan Addison, who's been showing out this year. He can play on the outside. He can play on the inside. I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to pigeonhole him to the slot. But even if you do pigeonhole him to the slot if you want to, I think he'd excel there too. So I'll take Addison here. He and Bryce grow together. 14th overall.
He's a great weapon for Bryce Young. Yet him and John Mechie will come back next year as well, hypothetically. So you really have 2 big boosts to the receiver room.
That's right. And now Indianapolis is on the board with their bevy of problems, and they're another team who could go quarterback. So which direction?
How do I fix this? How do I fix this? Yeah, I don't love the QB situation. I could see them being swayed to take Anthony Richardson. Other available guys left on the board, I think he's my next favorite QB available. But at 14, I'm just never going to get there with Anthony Richardson. I won't have it right now.
Won't have it.
No, I'm not going to have it. So looking at the rest of the available players, This might be a spot where I lean tackle because you need a left tackle desperately. Your left tackles right now are Dennis Kelly and Bernard Raymond. You need someone, or Ryman. You need someone to help out there. I'll look at Broderick Jones from Georgia here. I think he's my offensive tackle 2 currently,
Okay.
or maybe 3 behind Skronski. If you count Skronski as a guard, he's my offensive tackle 2. So I'm going to go with Jones.
All right. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia. 26 on this list. It's a little low. I don't know how I feel about that. Jones is a beast, 6'4". I think he's listed at 315 right now. I don't know. Passing over Paris Johnson, I don't know how I feel about that, but we'll touch on Johnson, I'm sure, later. And now the Atlanta Falcons, 15th overall, and I'm back on the clock. So Atlanta, what to do? They took Ritter. I don't think they're taking a quarterback here. I know they probably want to beef up running back. They probably want to beef up receiver because they did trade Calvin Ridley. And even though they drafted London and they have Pitts, you can never have too much talent. But I think they need to upgrade the defense. And there's a few options. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a shot. You know what? I'm going to do it. Where is he? Hold on. Let me scroll down a little. I'm going to do it. All right. Verse or Anudike Uzoma?
Oh, Verse.
That's your boy. You know what? I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Verse right there. I know we talked about Verse on one of our previous shows, and I know how much you like him.
Yeah, that's the move. Versus, look, and Udike Uzoma is a good player, but he's probably going to be more of a second-round guy, in my opinion. Verse, I think, has a legit chance to be a first-round pick.
He might not be on the board if he keeps doing what he's doing. He shows out in the postseason. But the Washington Commanders are on the board. You see this face? Every time you see this face, you think of the Commanders. 16th overall. Do it. Do something special.
Yeah. They need to draft a better legal team because they're under a lot of fire right now in Washington. But hey, we can focus here on the NFL side of things. Looking at the team, there's a lot of help they need. Currently, the offensive line, I wouldn't rule out them addressing issues there. They need a quarterback. It wouldn't shock me if they're the team to take Anthony Richardson, especially if their current owner is still in place, because that's a move I feel like he would dictate down to his general manager and everyone involved in the scouting department. He might dictate that. But I think the more important position to address right now is maybe the defensive secondary. Kendall Fuller's out there. You have Benjamin St-Juste. Rashad Wilegoose is there as well. Some young guys. I think you still need to add a cornerback to that room.
Yes.
Look at the guys available. Keely Ringo on the board, it might actually fit pretty well for them if he's able to drop a little weight. So I think Keely Ringo is going to be the pick here. I know some people view him as more of a late first-round pick, and I can understand why. But for this team and their scheme and what they're looking for, I think he might be a better fit than a Cam Smith or a Clark Phillips. So we're going to take Keely Ringo.
I don't care what's going on right now. Even on November 10th, there's no way Ringo drops down. At least I can't see it right now. Ringo dropping down to the end of the first or out of the first. I can't see it. Now, we did also say that about another Georgia standout who fell all the way to the third round. So maybe I should avoid those sort of declarations. But I said what I said, and I'm sticking by it. I don't think Ringo's dropping that far. Now, before we continue, got to do this. Your top sportsbook comparison site is betting.net. Betting.net offers extensive reviews on the best sportsbooks out there. So head on over to betting.net. And now the New England Patriots are on the board, 17th overall. We are halfway done. Thank you guys for sticking with us. And you know what? Starting now, we're going to do 30 seconds per pick because we are 24 and a half minutes in. I don't want to do this for an hour. Thank you guys for sticking with us so far. So the 30 seconds starts now from here on out, every pick. So the Patriots sitting on the board. I'm going to keep this very short, very sweet, and very simple. They love tight ends. Michael Mayer is still an option here. They might even go Cam Smith or Paris Johnson. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go JSN. I don't need the full 30 seconds. The Patriots need receiver help. It's ugly. I know they're probably not going to take a receiver in the first round. I know Bill Belichick doesn't have the best record when taking receivers, period, especially in the first round. But I think this would be a home run. Fits the team, fits the scheme, fits the need, talented, Ohio State connection. Let's do it. Cincinnati, here we go. Cincinnati, 18th overall. Let's see if Mike likes this pick. You are on the clock.
Yeah, I'm going to make it short and sweet. We're going to take Cam Smith from South Carolina here. Eli Apple is still playing significant snaps for your football team in the year 2022. That's not a good sign. So it's time to get him up out of there. We're going to take Cam Smith from South Carolina and hopefully fix that secondary and share it up for years to come.
So they just took Hill. Now they take Smith. Young studs in the secondary. Keep that defense beefy. And Tampa Bay, 19th overall. 30-second starts now. Now, Tampa Bay's in a weird spot, man. They're in a really, really weird spot. I know personally if they would take a quarterback in the first round, even when Tom Brady retires. But this is a weird, weird team. They can go in a bunch of different directions. Their defense is old. Their offensive line is porous. And you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Paris Johnson here. They need offensive line help. Tom Brady is not turning the ball over, but they're clearly struggling to protect him. They can't run the ball effectively. Jeff Johnson Jr., shore up the offensive line. Either play him at guard or play someone else at guard. You figure it out, but beef up the front five there. Denver's on the clock, 20th overall. Here we go.
Yeah, some people might be trying to mock the edge rusher to Denver. I think they actually like who they have in the building right now. They got rid of Bradley Chubb. They still have some very good pass rushers, so I'm not going to take that route. Looking around, trying to find someone who I like. I'm looking at the offensive tackles. I don't really love any of the guys who are available there currently. We might just go wide receiver today. We might just take the easy route and take – oh, wait, no, we already took Jordan Addison. This is where it starts getting a little bit difficult. Let me look around. I hear a certain beeping noise in the background there. I don't particularly love that. All right. Well, joke's on me. We are going to go edge rusher because I'm out of time. So I think I'm actually going to go Isaiah Foskey here. He's not the bendiest of guys, but he'll certainly make a nice combination with him, Baron Browning, and Randy Gregory. You're looking at one of the better pass rushing trios in the NFL.
All right, Isaiah Foskey. All right. You know what? I like this. I like how this mock draft is going so far. So we just did 11 through 20. Let's just go over that one more time before we move on to the next batch. So I went Wilson from Texas Tech for Seattle, Porter Jr. to Detroit at 12, Addison to Houston at 13, Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia, 14 to the Colts, Verse, edge rusher from Florida State to Atlanta. Ringo leaves the Beatles and goes to Washington at 16th overall. JSN, again, Patriots, probably not taking him, but I'm mocking it. There's my mock. I'll do what I want. Taking JSN, 17 overall. Smith, corner from South Carolina, going 18 to the Bengals. Paris Johnson Jr. going to Tampa Bay at 19, and Denver taking Foskey at 20 overall. So now we are at number 21, the LA Chargers. And this is another weird team because they are so damn talented all over the board, but they're so snake bitten. Injuries, bad luck, they just can't get out of their own way. They might very well need to go with a wide receiver here because Mike Williams keeps getting hurt. Keenan Allen keeps getting hurt. Both guys are totally unreliable. I don't know how good Palmer is, to be completely honest. And looking at the talent across the board, I don't really know if I want to go with like a Michael Mayer here maybe, or Trenton Simpson from Clemson or somebody like that. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Michael Mayer here. I don't like what they have at tight end currently. You can always do better over the middle. Mayer looks like an absolute beast at Notre Dame. I'm going to do it. Give Herbert another weapon over the middle since all these other receivers keep getting injured. Give him a stud. 21st overall, Meyer, lock it up. Tennessee's on the clock.
Yeah, I was really hoping to bring him into Tennessee, honestly. Like, that was going to be my pick. Make it nice and easy to take Mayer there. So you blocked me 2 or 3 times tonight. But now I have to figure out something for Tennessee. This is a team that probably needs offensive line help. Frankly, I don't like the offensive line group that's left in terms of using a first-round value on these guys. So looking at what's left, maybe some cornerback help here.
It's going to have to be best player available, bud.
Best player available with Derrick Henry. The best player available is Bijan Robinson, and Derrick Henry is available on our team. So I don't think it's going to be best player available quite yet. I'm going to go corner. I know they have a lot of young corners, but I feel like you can never have enough of those guys at this point, especially with some of the injuries they've suffered in that cornerback room. And the wide receiver market's not that great right now in the first round. So I'm going to go corner instead. We're going to take yikes. I don't want – they're going to have a really small cornerback room, but this is the first mock draft, so we'll go with it anyways. I'm going to take Clark Phillips. This is probably very rich for him to go this high, especially in 20s. Like I don't think he'll actually go this high in draft night, and it does make him a smaller cornerback room because they have some small guys in there already. But I like Clark Phillips quite a bit, and frankly, when I'm looking at the rest of this board, there's really not a lot of talent that would benefit Tennessee, in my opinion.
Well, they also took what's his face in the first round a couple of years ago from Virginia Tech. Jesus, Farley.
Caleb Farley. Caleb Farley's not played too well for them. They've actually used Christian Fulton from LSU and Roger McCreary from Auburn a lot more.
It's a disappointing state of affairs in Tennessee.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so I got Seattle 23 overall on the clock, and earlier they took Tyree Wilson, D lineman, edge rusher from Texas Tech, pass rusher, and the rebuild continues. And they've done really well this year, but they're, like I said earlier, are not a team without holes. We already addressed the front four, so we're not going to go there again. But they could keep rebuilding the secondary. I'm going to go safety here. And I'm a huge fan of Malachi Moore. And I'm going to take him right here, right now. Boom. Beef up that secondary. Add to Woolen, who's having a defensive rookie of the year type season at corner, and just keep going.
It's probably the most surprising pick so far, I think.
This is what the Seahawks do, man. You got to do something right.
That is true. If there's a team that's going to do it, Seattle certainly falls in that category.
Moore's not bad, man. He's got good size. He's had a good season.
All right, that takes us to Baltimore. Baltimore's very interesting. I could go B.J. Ojulari here, but at the same time, I think there's some concerns that you have a lot of young pass rushers in that room already. In OA, you also have a Jabo coming back from injury, I believe. So you have a bunch of guys in that room who are young, kind of unproven dudes. You really want to stack too much more on top of that. Probably not, but you also have to see what Justin Houston's been your most productive pass rusher, and he's getting up there in age. Jason Pierre-Paul's on your roster. He's another guy who's a vet. You're not going to keep him around long term. Nolan Smith, Nolan Smith's here too. I'm actually going to go Nolan Smith for this pick. And that might be a little bit surprising because he's kind of underdeveloped as a pass rusher to some extent, which Ojulari's probably the better pure pass rusher, but Smith's actually very effective as a run defender, has really good play strength, and he has the athletic traits. He just has not necessarily translated all that into a great pass rushing repertoire yet.
Not yet. Let me see. All right. You know what? New Jersey. Jesus Christ. New York Jets. 25th overall. Having a great season. Let me start my clock over here. Boom. Having a great season, but yet another team that is not without holes. And I really want to take an offensive tackle here because I think that's their biggest need right now. Aside from the injuries, Becton is just unreliable, and the fans definitely want to get a replacement at tackle. They're done with him too. But at this point, there's really no one I really want to take at that with this pick, but they have needs elsewhere, and they could stand to keep beefing up the defense. Since you didn't take him, I'm going to go with BJ Ojulari right here. We know they like to pressure with the front four, don't like to blitz. San Francisco, we know their head coach comes from San Francisco as a former defensive coordinator, and Saleh loves having options up front. They want to go 8 deep up front with a solid rotation and just keep beefing up that defense. So I'll go with Ojulari, 25th overall LSU edge rusher. And before we continue, I want to remind you guys that The Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. So head on over to betting.net. And we've hit the stretch. What's the word I'm looking for? What's
Home
the
stretch?
Home stretch. Jesus. Yes, I'm out of it today. We've hit the home stretch here. We are on the 26th pick. We're going till 32, the whole first round. And Dallas is on the clock.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple here. Take Brian Branch, safety/slot defensive back from Alabama. Dallas is going to need some rebuilding their secondary this offseason. They have some nice pieces in Trevon Diggs, Jaron Kearse, but they really need some help in the slot. A bunch of their guys up for contract as well. Brian Branch is a very intriguing player who I think can play slot and can help you towards the line of scrimmage with the run defense, but also has enough athletic ability to cover players and stick with them.
I'm sorry, what was the pick?
Brian Branch, safety from Alabama.
You ever have a burp stuck right here and it just doesn't want to come out and it goes back down and then you feel like your chest is going to explode? Yeah, that just happened.
Yeah, it's awful.
Oh, my God. Oh, why is it so loud? What happened? Hold on. Let me crack open a fresh one here. All right. 30 fresh seconds. And now the New York Football Giants are on the clock. Now, here's another team outperforming expectations, but they're another team that I know they're winning, but they could use a quarterback. And I know their fans wouldn't hate it if they took a quarterback here. Hooker, Richardson, McKee, all solid options, and could very well be the picks if they're there. Quarterbacks of that talent don't normally drop to the mid to late 20s, but their wide receiver room is an absolute disaster. I think they would go Jalen Hyatt here. He is showing out this season. He's really picked it up. He is the number 1 wide receiver for Tennessee. And I mean, they showed, I think, what was it? Last week, they showed a graphic during the Tennessee game. Or was it last week? Something like that. Recently, I saw a graphic about comparing him to Devonta Smith, and I forget who the other receiver they compared him to. But where he is currently, he is pretty much identical with Smith's stats from his Heisman season. So if he keeps this up, he could win the Heisman if his quarterback doesn't. But his stock is rising as well. So I go Hyatt here, beef up the wide receiver room for the Giants, and the Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock.
Yeah, Kansas City would really like some help along the offensive line, especially I think Orlando Brown is only under the franchise tag, so doesn't have a long-term deal yet. Andrew Wiley, your other tackle, along with Lucas Niang, Darren Kennard in that room. I would like to give him a tackle here. I don't see the pathway to that happening, unfortunately. I just don't see a tackle. Actually, no, let's do this. Let's give him DeJuan Jones from Ohio State. Not particularly a guy who I think will go in the first round. I think I said second round type of guy. But Kansas City really needs offensive line help. And looking through the rest of the board, frankly, I'm not too high on any of the remaining players. Maybe Trenton Simpson and Bijan Robinson. Those are players I don't think Kansas City will take.
It's a little early for DeJuan Jones, no?
You know, it is really, like I said, I think he's a second round guy. But, and I know there's some people who have mixed opinions. Some people do view him as potential first round. I think he's more of a second round, top of the third round kind of guy. But like I said, I don't like the way this draft has fallen at all for Kansas City.
We'll do one of these. That's my pineapples for this one so far. I know you didn't like my safety, my Malachi pick earlier, but that's my first pineapples for this one on your pick. So DeJuan Jones, all right, offensive lineman, Ohio State goes 28th overall, and now the Minnesota Vikings, 29th, with only 1 loss on the season. Who knew? But they could definitely use help on defense still. They could use help at corner. They could maybe use another edge. I know they made it. They're making waves or trying to make moves on defense, but it ain't working so far. Do I want to go edge? Do I want to go corner? Right now, I hate every single one of them. Not going to reach. I'm not going to reach. So you know what? I'm going to give him another edge rusher. I'm going to go, I don't know, DK Uzoma. It should have been done earlier. I don't know why he's still on the board. I'm a huge fan. Boom. Plug him in. A+. Buffalo on the clock. Go.
The Bills are a team that have almost everything. They will need safety help, though, if they don't resign Jordan Poyer. Depending on the situation with Micah Hyde and his health, you might need safety help. I don't really like Antonio Johnson as a first-round pick, in my opinion. I'm a little bit lower than that. So looking at what's available throughout the rest of the board currently, guys, like I don't think they're going to take Bijan Robinson. I don't think they're going to take Keyshawn Boutte. I don't think they're going to take Trent Simpson. This has fallen in a pretty horrible way for me, not going to lie.
This escalated quickly.
Yeah, this is pretty awful. But I'm gonna give him Osiris Torrance, the guard from Florida. Their offensive line is solid but not great right now, and I think they will look to upgrade in the future.
Osiris Torrance. Teams reaching for offensive linemen so far, huh?
Yeah, he's not that bad. Torrance is probably going to be like a 35 to 40 kind of player on my board.
I want to get another pineapple out here, but I'll wait. I'll save it for later. It's not Malachi Moore, but it's fine. All right, so the Philadelphia Eagles are on the board. 30 seconds on the clock. Boom. All right, so I took an edge rusher earlier, and I know this team is doing really well. They're undefeated. They're riding really high. And I know Miles Sanders is having a really good season. But there is no shot that Bijan Robinson drops out of the first round. I thought he could have gone earlier in a few different spots, maybe Buffalo, maybe Kansas City. But if Robinson's on the board right now, there's no way Philadelphia passes on him. I hate that Robinson fell this far. I know he's a running back and the position's devalued, but he should definitely go a lot higher than this. He might go to Baltimore at 24. He could go to the Giants if they don't bring back Saquon Barkley. There's a few different options for this kid. So maybe Tampa Bay 19th overall. The list goes on. But if he's there at 31, no brainer. And the final pick of this draft, it's gone. It's actually, I feel like it's gone pretty quick. But here we are. Houston, 30 seconds. Final pick of the first round. Bryce Young, Jordan Addison. Now who?
Yeah, this is not actually a first-round pick this year. It's going to be a second-round pick because of Miami losing their draft selection. But I guess with the machine, because it's coded, so you have to have this one included. All right, Houston. You and Bryce Young, and you gave him who else was he getting? You gave him receiver help, right? Addison. Yeah. Okay. So I really like this draft so far for Houston then. But looking around, I have to find someone for them. I'm going to say right now, Darnell Washington stands out to me as someone who I'm probably gonna mock there. Jahmyr Gibbs is on the board too. I like him quite a bit. I think he'll actually probably go in the first round for what he does, but they have Dameon Pierce. I don't think they really need him. Looking around, yeah, nothing else really. Well, Trenton Simpson's there too. Trenton Simpson and Darnell Washington to me are the two guys that stand out the most. And frankly, I think Darnell Washington will just have a bigger impact because of the position he plays than Trenton Simpson. So Simpson might be the better prospect, but I'm going to pick Darnell Washington here. I think he'll have a better impact and be a higher value player for Houston.
All right, bonus pick, top pick of the second round, Darnell Washington out of Georgia. So that's it. Wow. That was our first mock draft. You know, I'm very pleased. I like how this went. So let's see. Can we go back and see the whole thing, or do we just have to do it?
Hit save.
Hit save.
There you go.
Look at that. Dan and Sam mock draft 1.0, 11. Well, it says 11-11, but let's do one of these. All right. So here it is. First round. After we're done, how do you feel? How do you feel? You know what? Let's start there. How do you feel?
I feel all right. I feel like I definitely rushed it in the second. Like the first half was great, And in the second half, right around where I picked Foskey to Denver, I think I started to fudge it a little bit. Like I started to maybe have some slips on that one. Again, like guys like Clark Phillips, I think is going to go a little bit later. I like the Brian Branch pick a lot. Nolan Smith, I'm not sure about. DeJuan Jones, I'm not sure about. Osiris Torrance, Darnell Washington. These are all guys who could be second round dudes. So not
Malachi Moore.
Not Malachi Moore for you. It's just the second round for me is very up in the air. But definitely like the first half of the first round.
So there's still a lot of talent on the board. Now, why no I'm just gonna say Booty, wide receiver from LSU.
Yeah, I have some concerns with him regarding just his production and character to some extent. And when I say character, I want to make it quite clear, like I'm not saying this guy is criminal or off the field stuff or anything like that. I am just, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I have a history of receivers who might have diva-like tendencies, and I'm a little cautious of guys drafting players who might have something like that attached to their personality.
Okay.
Keishan Butte is extremely talented. He's a first-round caliber talent, but will he actually be drafted in the first round? Frankly, I don't know because he's not produced that well for LSU. And again, I'm just not entirely sure. If you go through the interview process with him and he interviews really well, then hey, I think he'll be a first-round pick. But as of right now, I just don't want to make that leap.
Are there any names that we didn't draft in the first round that you expect to be a first-round pick?
Yeah, I expect Trenton Simpson and Jahmyr Gibbs to be first-round picks. Jahmyr Gibbs is probably one of the 20 most talented players in this draft class, and Trenton Simpson is not too far behind him. So I expect both those guys to be first-round selections. I just couldn't find places. Like linebackers and running backs are always hard to mock because of the positional value, and also someone like Simpson, like you have to figure out a specific role for him in every defense. You know, if you play with two linebackers most of the time, then it's going to be different for you. So mocking someone like Simpson is just difficult. But those are the two guys who I expect to be first-round picks that we did not select.
Now that's Simpson, the linebacker from Clemson, and Gibbs, the running back from Alabama.
Yeah, and I would put Anthony Richardson in the bucket too. I think someone will take a shot on him from what I'm hearing. If he declares, someone will probably take him. Personally, like I said, I'm not going to have a first-round grade on him, but it's a very large guy who runs very fast and throws the ball very far. So I think you're going to just fall into that trend. People like to take those athletic dudes. And there's the upside. He has had some very good games this year. It's just been a lot of inconsistencies. So you have to evaluate him as, yeah, he's got all the tools. This is not going to be a day one starter. It's not going to be a year one starter. But I think some teams will look at him and say, this is the future of our franchise.
Yeah, I thought we would have gone a few more quarterbacks than we did. I think we only went with 3 quarterbacks in the first round, which is fine. And I like that because I don't really think these other guys should be in there for the most part. But Hooker would be one name that might slip in there in the first round and maybe surprise us up. 25 years old, but he's having a great season. Hooker, Richardson, McKee from Stanford is another name that apparently some teams like. So I think we'll see more than 3 quarterbacks when it's all said and done, but it's early. We do these exercises for fun, see what names could possibly be there. But thank you guys for sticking with us so far. I hope you guys enjoyed our first mock draft of the season. And before we head out, I want to remind you guys to head over to betting.net and see for yourself how they make it easy to find all of the legal online casinos or sportsbooks in your state. So head on over to betting.net. And Sam, why don't you let the people know what is your handle on Twitter?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. That's TEETS 33. There you can find all my draft reports. I'm putting out about 1 per day right now. You can find stock up, stock down articles. Some of the stuff appears on Sports Illustrated as well, so you can check that out. I'll throw some links out there occasionally for them. And if you look at my pin tweet, that's a direct link to my Substack, which is a newsletter that I run, which is all of my draft content in there as well. It's totally free to access. All you have to do is click on the pin tweet, and you can get over 100 draft reports for free.
That's amazing. And when's your next mock draft going to be coming out?
Probably next week. I'm working on the second edition of my top 200. I have scrapped this way too many times. It's been the most painful big board I've ever put together in my entire life. But I am hoping to get this out sometime tomorrow night, and then I will start looking at a mock draft for next week.
All right, perfect. And you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DB Talking Sports, D as in Dan, B as in Bob. And be sure to give Sam a follow. We'll follow you guys back. And we'll catch you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed our first mock draft. Draft season will be here before you guys know it. So for Sam Teets, I'm Dan Kornhauser. Thank you for tuning in.